Has this done what I think it's supposed to? There we go. That's what I want. Okay. So, problem of free will, part two. So the last thing I said was, that your unconscious uh, gives you something to do, tells you to do something that's probably not a good idea. It's that we don't always have choices about what it is that we desire to do. Things like, your mind can get really bright ideas, like I really can leap from here to there without doing anything wrong, without falling, and your body says no. Um, your mind thinks, oh, I wonder what it would feel like to step off this platform, and the other part of your conscious mind goes, no. And Benjamin Libet suggested, and some other obviously philosophers have thought about this too, that the unconscious sort of generates our will without our conscious control. And what the consciousness does is chooses between these different options that our unconscious comes up with, um, to which one of these to act upon and how, and which ones not to act upon. He talks about it as free won't. Okay, so get back to that in a minute. Let's move on. Okay, the next slide, the problem of free will. Okay, so this is just a nutshell version. It seems to be the case that people are capable of acting freely, that we can make choices, we can deliberate about them, and act accordingly, that we can choose to do otherwise, or could have chosen to do otherwise. I could have asked for the chocolate ice cream instead of the vanilla ice cream. Um, I could have taken the road less traveled, and so on. So this seems to be, and this is an essential part of our character, right? This is what we base our sort of assessment of moral responsibility upon, and whether or not somebody is worthy of blame or praise. It depends on to what extent we think somebody's choices led them to do whatever thing it is we're evaluating for moral purposes, right? So this is tied into um, our ideas having to do with moral responsibility and whether or not we deserve something, whether it's, again, praise or blame. It's also tied, of course, into our identity, because the way that we think about ourselves um, has a lot to do with what we think we've chosen to do and not to do. The struggle with the will to do those things that you know that you ought to do, or not to do those things that you ought not do, like right now, going for a drive. Um, so it's kind of bound up into that idea as well. And we also, assume that other people are capable of doing this and hold other people responsible, and on and so forth. So the problem of free will, it seems to be the case that people are capable of acting freely. Right? Two, determinism is true. The universe is entirely governed by causal laws. So everything that seems to happen around us happens regardless of what we may or may not desire. Gravity works. Uh, the speed of light is the final say on how fast everything can go. Um, and we don't expect things to have choices about what it is that they do. Things in particular, like the planets moving through the heavens, they don't really choose where it is they want to go. Asteroids, comets, etc. Molecules don't really have any choices about what they're going to interact with and not interact with. I'll accept that through my receptor, but not that one, um, and so on. So it all seems to be that there's this like long chain of cause and effect that goes all the way back to the beginning of the universe. And there's no room for any freedom in there, any choice that at least as far as unconscious things or non-conscious things go, inanimate objects go, except for the ones we throw, are acting according to physical laws, like the ball that's rolling downhill, or rather the rock that rolls down the hill, right? Um, okay, so the universe seems to be pretty determined, right? Means it's predetermined. It's pragmatic. It's all just one really big rock rolling down a hill. Pragmatic was the wrong word. Just scratch that. It also seems to be the case that human beings are part of the universe, right? We are physical beings, embodied beings, and we are also subject to causal laws. We also fall at 9.8 meters per second squared, and we also can't go faster than the speed of light. Think about the speed of dark. Anyway, so people are part of the universe and equally subject to causal laws, just like the rock rolling down the hill is. That at least our physical forms, right, are subject to the same kinds of causal laws. Chemistry works within and without our body the same way. Um, okay, and then acting freely, okay, and being causally determined are incompatible. This also seems to be the case. That how is it possible that we think that we can act freely, that we can make choices and deliberate and could do one thing or another? There's this juxtaposition, this crux, this point at which we could decide to go left or we could decide to go right, and therein lies the difference, according to Robert Frost. So we and so possibly one of the multi-universe sorts of views is that at that moment the universe sort of splits into two possibilities. There's one universe in which we've chosen to go left and one universe in which we've chosen to go right. Now everybody always wonders, what if I had done that? What if I had done this other thing? Yeah, think about the nature of regret and its pointlessness. Okay, so that's acting freely and being causally determined are incompatible. Okay, so this is sort of the problem of free will laid out a little bit. One line expression of that idea here: how can we have truly free will in a physical universe that obeys physical laws? And we're part of that physical universe. The thing below it is actually a diagram from a professor I used to work for. He was involved in developing a logic of action, and this was their diagram of branching space-time relative to the sorts of decisions that one can make. The dotted lines are decisions that we could have taken, but we didn't. We're going to choose the omega line to lead us forward into the future. And it's linear from the past to the present because, of course, once we've done things, once the universe has gone through its motions, we can't go back. We can't change anything. So it's a lot of the things that we're going to look at here, at least with regard to causation, have to do with our relative position in time between what comes before, what comes after. This has some interesting epistemological consequences about basically what we can know about the physical universe, or what we can say that we know about the physical universe. Okay, this next concept is an expression of determinism. Pierre-Simon Laplace, sorry, I ran this together, who you might know from mathematics, generated this I think, lovely paragraph to describe determinism. And it's just a cool concept. We may regard the present state of the universe as the effect of its past and the cause of its future. An intellect which at a certain moment would know all forces that set nature in motion and all positions of all items of which nature is composed, if this intellect were also vast enough to submit these data to analysis, it would embrace in a single formula the movements of the greatest bodies of the universe and those of the tiniest atom. For such an intellect, nothing would be uncertain, and the future, just like the past, would be present before its eyes. Laplace called this his demon. If he had had access, I think, to the concept of a computer in the way that we do, that might have been the term that he used instead. So let's imagine that we can perceive, we know where every single thing in the universe is at this moment. We know which direction they're going and at what speed. With this towering intellect of Laplace's demon, we could use that knowledge to determine where all the things in the universe are going to go, right? Where they're going to bounce off each other and in what ways and which directions they're going to go. And we can extend, that knowledge to the end of time, or we run out of, storage space in the computer. But we could postulate that all the way to the end of the universe if we could have that perfect knowledge, okay, of how everything is moving through space. Imagine, likewise, if you know where everything is and how everything is moving in space-time, what state they're in, let's suppose. I'm thinking about quantum mechanics now, but never mind. Just know that we know where all the particles are. We know which way they're moving. We can also deduce where they came from and which ones bounced off of the ones prior to this and allowed the current state to come about. So we could see basically everything that came all the way back to the beginning of the universe, too. So the future, just like the past, would be present before its eyes. Our computer. I just think this is a really neat idea. Okay, I think I'm going to pause here before I go on to the next slide and generate another